Most people, when they hear the word wealth, picture something countable, a bank balance, a property deed, a number on a screen. The Vedantic tradition redirects this assumption entirely. The Sanskrit word sampat means wealth, but in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it refers to nothing external. It refers to the interior texture of a person, the accumulated quality of how they think, what they reach for, how they respond when life does not comply. Your inner qualities are the actual currency determining where your life moves, not because of some abstract cosmic law, but because of direct causality. A person ruled by fear, craving, and pretension will make different choices, interpret the same events differently, and arrive at a different destination than a person whose mind is steady, transparent, and oriented toward inquiry. The external circumstances may look identical. The trajectory will not be. Most people treat character as a moral category, a judgment about your worth. Sampat is not a report card. It is infrastructure. It is the difference between a compass and a rope. A compass directs you out of the forest. A rope ties you to a tree. Neither makes a moral statement about the person holding it. One takes you somewhere and the other does not. The question. Chapter 16 asks is entirely practical. Which of these are you carrying? Daivi sampat, divine wealth, names the qualities that function as a compass: fearlessness, purity, self-restraint, commitment to inquiry, transparency in action. Asura sampat, demonic or materialistic wealth, names the qualities that function as a rope: hypocrisy, pride, the compulsive need for external validation, the belief that I am this body and nothing more. The quality of your inner life determines whether you move toward freedom or remain in a cycle of recurring suffering. Not your circumstances, not your relationships, not the fairness of what life has handed you. The sampat you carry either supports or undermines your capacity to see clearly. Seeing clearly, in this tradition, is the mechanism by which freedom becomes possible. Most people, when they feel bound, look outward for the cause: a difficult marriage, a stifling career, a body that will not cooperate, circumstances that seem to conspire against them. The search for relief moves in that same direction. Change the situation, change the relationship, change the environment. Vedanta stops this search short and asks a more precise question. What exactly is the bondage? Until you know what it is, you cannot know what would dissolve it. Bondage, bondage, is a cognitive error, one so fundamental that it runs beneath everything else. The sense of I in the not-self. The intellect looks at the body, the emotions, the personality, the roles you play, and says, this is what I am. That single identification is the whole of bondage. You are not imprisoned by what is happening around you. You are imprisoned by a mistaken conclusion about what you are. That conclusion operates below the level of most introspection. You may question your career, your relationships, your beliefs, but you rarely question the one doing the questioning. The tradition offers a pointed image here. A person sits quietly, hands resting in their lap, completely unshackled. Nothing binds their wrists. And yet, if they are utterly convinced that their hands are chained, if that belief is vivid and unexamined, they will not use their hands freely. They will not reach out. They will not act with ease. They will feel the weight of chains that are not there. Their suffering is real. The constriction is real. But the chains are not. The problem is not in the hands. It is in the conclusion. Bondage is a notional error, a misidentification. What is required is knowledge, not more experience, not more effort directed at the world, but a correction at the level of understanding. Notional does not mean mild. It means the cause lies in a belief, not in the world. A belief, once seen clearly for what it is, can be dissolved in a way that no external condition ever can be. What keeps the misidentification in place, what makes it self-renewing rather than dissolving on its own, is the set of inner qualities the mind habitually runs on. Some continuously reinforce the error, feeding the sense of, I am the body, I am the doer, I am limited. Knowing what those qualities are is where the inquiry must go. The binding traits are not moral failures. They are a coherent, self-reinforcing system, a way of organizing one's life around a fundamental error of identity. That error is placing the sense of I in the body and mind. Asure sampat, the demonic or materialistic disposition, is what this error looks like once it becomes a settled way of living. The Gita is direct. These traits lead Nibbandaya for confirmed bondage, a reserved seat in continued samsara. Not a moral condemnation, a statement about trajectory. Damba, hypocrisy, means performing noble or spiritual acts for public display rather than inner growth. The teachers point out that Damba always signals a deeper problem. The person performing it has no stable self-respect and so must borrow it from the opinions of others. Every act of charity done for applause, every show of piety done for status, is the ego desperately filling a hole that external approval can never fill. The hole deepens the more it is fed. DARPA, pride is the hardening of this pattern into a rigid self-image that cannot tolerate any challenge. Atimana, the compulsive demand for respect, is what happens when that pride meets the world's inevitable indifference. The result is a person who is perpetually threatened, perpetually reactive, and incapable of the stillness that inquiry requires. These are not random vices. They are symptoms of a single root, the belief that I am this body-mind, and everything that threatens it threatens me. Once that belief is in place, the entire machinery of Asure Sampat follows with its own internal logic. Attach to what sustains the body image, recoil from what diminishes it, perform what protects it, consume whatever the senses pull toward. Within the broader category of Asure Sampat, the teachers identify a subset called Rakshasi Sampat, a disposition driven not by greed and tamas, but by devesha, hatred, and the heat of rajas. Where the Asure type clutches and accumulates, the Rakshasi type attacks and destroys. Both are rooted in the same identity error. The person dominated by tamas-driven Asure Sampat builds walls. The one dominated by Rajas-driven Rakshasi Sampat burns them down. Both remain imprisoned. The koshakrit spins its cocoon from its own saliva. Fine. Maishishindyons usashia teshin, purposeful. Each thread is laid for protection and security. But the cocoon that was meant to shelter it becomes the sealed space in which it dies. No external enemy traps the silkworm. It traps itself with its own output. The attachments built around body identity work the same way. The reputation cultivated over decades, the bank balance grown as a hedge against fear, the relationships maintained through performance rather than truth. Each thread seems wise and necessary as it is laid. Together they form walls. The person inside them can no longer see out. They cannot ask, "Who am I?" without the question immediately threatening every thread. So the question never gets asked. Bhasmasura performed intense tapas, real discipline, real sacrifice, but the intensity was fueled entirely by ambition. The willpower was genuine, the direction was the problem. When Shiva granted him the power to reduce anything he touched to ash, he immediately turned his hand towards Shiva himself. Effort without Daivi Sampat is not a neutral force. It amplifies whatever is already there. Directed by Asure Sampat, it accelerates bondage. Where in your own life are you spinning threads you believe are protective, a reputation, an accumulation, a role maintained through performance? That may have quietly become walls you cannot see past. The Gita does not say, be less greedy or be less proud. The prescription goes deeper, not reducing the intensity of these qualities, but understanding what generates them. The fundamental mistaken identity that places the infinite I inside a finite body and then spends a lifetime defending that placement. The self cannot be manufactured, improved, or earned. It is already present. What blocks its recognition is not the absence of the self, but the turbulence of the mind that obscures it. A lake in constant agitation cannot reflect the sky accurately, even though the sky has not moved. Daivi Sampat, Vimokshaya, for total release, is the stilling of that agitation. It does not create clarity. It removes what prevents clarity. This is where Daivi Sampat enters, not as a list of virtues to admire, but as a functional answer to a specific question: What inner conditions make self-knowledge possible at all? The Sanskrit vimokshaya means for total release. Every quality cataloged under Daivi Sampat serves that single end. Fearlessness, purity, self-restraint, non-hypocrisy, steadiness. These are not moral achievements. They are the conditions under which the mind becomes capable of receiving knowledge of its own nature. In the Vedantic analysis, fear is always relational. It arises when I feel dependent on something outside myself for my sense of being intact. When the sense of self is rooted in a job, a relationship, a reputation, every threat to those objects is a threat to me. The mind in this state cannot inquire. It is too busy scanning for danger. Fearlessness is the beginning of freedom from the exhausting work of protecting an identity that was never the real one. A mind that is not constantly defending itself becomes available for something quieter, inquiry into what it is. The contrast the outline names is the walking stick versus the crutch. The Asheri mind has made the world load-bearing. Remove the status, the approval, the accumulation, and the sense of self collapses. The person with Daivi Sampat holds the stick, uses it, engages with work and relationship fully, but the weight is not there. Take the stick away and they are still standing. This is swamitva, mastery over one's own mind, the capacity to engage without the engagement becoming the ground of one's existence. Most people who encounter the list of divine qualities recruit them into a self-improvement project. I should be more patient. I should be less angry. The frame remains. I am someone who needs to become better. Daivi Sampat in the Vedantic context is not about improving the person. It is about refining the instrument, the mind, so that knowledge can occur in it. The point is vimokshaya, total release. The qualities of Daivi Sampat build this structure by degrees. Purity reduces the noise of mixed motives. Commitment to inquiry keeps the direction fixed. None of these are ornamental. Each removes a specific obstruction to the mind's capacity to know itself clearly. Even a mind full of divine qualities, if it clings to those qualities as its identity, has exchanged one form of entanglement for another. A golden shackle is still a shackle. The cultivation of Daivi Sampat is indispensable, but it is a preparation, not an arrival. Here is a confusion so common it deserves to be named plainly. A person hears about Daivi Sampat, begins cultivating fearlessness and purity and self-restraint, starts to feel genuinely better, and concludes that this is what freedom looks like. The mind is quieter. The impulses are weaker. The relationships are more stable. This is exactly where the teaching becomes uncomfortable. A prisoner is bound by heavy iron chains. You remove the iron and replace it with gold. The prisoner is now comfortable. The chains are beautiful. There is even a kind of dignity in wearing them. But when he tries to walk out of the cell, the gold holds him just as firmly as the iron did. The metal changes. The confinement does not. Papam, demerit, is the iron shackle. Punyam, merit, is the golden one. Both bind because both preserve the sense of doership intact. I am the one who acted. I am the one who deserves credit. I am the one maintaining my goodness. Improving the quality of what you identify with does not solve the problem. It refines it. A person who has made genuine spiritual progress often carries a subtle demand for acknowledgement, that others recognize their restraint, honor their commitment, treat them as the serious seeker they have become. This is Damba in its more refined form, not the crude pretension of performing rituals for social status, but the quieter need for the ego to be confirmed in its spiritual identity. This arises from a lack of true self-respect. One who knows their own nature does not need it confirmed from outside. The gold shackle is the necessary preparation. The mind refined by sattvic virtues is the only mind capable of receiving self-knowledge. You cannot vault over ignorance without the pole, but the pole must eventually be dropped. The same discipline that carried you to the edge of the forest becomes dead weight the moment you step out of it. Is the I that cultivates your virtue the same one that quietly expects recognition for cultivating it? And if so, what does that reveal about whether the golden shackle has truly been released? The question is not whether to cultivate virtue. The question is, what is the I that cultivates it? If that I remains the doer, the one who earns merit, maintains goodness, and takes pride in the maintenance, then the golden shackle stays locked. A different kind of seeing is required, one that does not locate the I in any quality at all. Whether iron or gold, you have cultivated fearlessness, purity, and self-restraint. The mind is steadier. The silkworm's compulsive spinning has slowed. And yet there is still someone who knows they are disciplined. Someone quietly proud of having dropped the iron shackle for the golden one. That someone is the problem, not the traits, the one claiming them. This is where the teaching makes its sharpest turn. They are all objects of experience. You know when lethargy grips you. You know when ambition fires you. You know when clarity arrives. That knowing, the fact that each state appears to something and is registered by something, points directly to a witness that is none of them. The gunas are the seen. They cannot also be the seer. The attributeless self, attributeless by nature, always. The Atma does not become nirguna when you meditate well. It is nirguna the way a clear crystal is not red, not because the red flower was removed, but because the crystal never took on the color in the first place. The mind's traits, ashari or daivi, are the flower. The self is the crystal. The confusion of Vedantic practice, at every level, is taking the crystal for the flower. When ashari traits dominate, the self seems degraded and bound. When daivi traits arise, the self seems elevated and purified. Neither is true. The self has been registering both conditions without being altered by either. Swami Dayananda frames the bondage directly. The intellect wrongly concludes, I am the body. All of Asuri sampat flows from that error. All of Daivi sampat is the preparation to dissolve it into the recognition that I am the all-pervading consciousness, unattached. Not a statement to be memorized and repeated, but a seeing that, once stable, renders the question of divine traits versus demonic traits permanently secondary. If every quality you have ever experienced, lethargy, ambition, clarity, virtue, has appeared to something that witnessed it unchanged, what does that reveal about what you are? The one who has become Gunatita does not lack character. The Devi qualities remain, expressed naturally, the way a clean window remains transparent without trying. What is gone is the identification with them. The cultivated goodness is no longer a golden shackle worn with pride. It is how an unbound mind moves through the world.